All right. Welcome to True You Ministries. I'm Stacy Echeverria, your host. And joining me again this week is Jacob Ostler. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. So good to see you again.
I'm really excited about part two. I know we focused primarily on parents and family and talking with their kids about some of the stuff that kids get exposed to, sexual exploitation and all of that. But now we're going to zoom out and we're going to look at it from a global perspective. So, for our listeners who may be new to this issue, can you give an overview of the global problem of online sexual exploitation and trafficking?
Absolutely. I will say if you want to see this kind of stuff in your community, the easiest way to do it is to Google, just press the news icon and then type in your city name and things like human trafficking, child exploitation arrest, CSAM arrest, things like that. And you'll just find tons of news stories that on the zoom out level, this is a growing problem everywhere. Child exploitation, historically, for people to abuse people, they had to have physical access to those people. It had to be somebody they knew in person, they encountered, that they groomed, that they were alone with, that person knew who they were, all of this stuff, right? Online makes it way different. One, it makes it so predators can connect with each other, often on things like Facebook groups, messaging apps like Signal, Telegram, other things like that. And they give each other how-to knowledge. They teach each other, how do you exploit a kid? How do you abuse a kid without leaving a mark? How do you make sure you don't get caught? How do you threaten a kid to make sure they don't report? Like, these are all things that happen online. And we also see that they have much more access to kids. When you give your kid a phone, your kid can access the world. The world can access your kid. It goes both ways. And so those are things I look at. Honestly, there's 1,000 different issues we could talk about in space. One of the growing problems is called CSAM, which we talked about last time, and I'll remind you, it's the term. It used to be called child pornography, and now it's called child sexual abuse material, or CSAM. And it's videos and images of underage kids often being abused. And these images are stored, they're shared, they're distributed, they're posted online, they're on porn sites. I think it was 2020 or 2021. Pornhub removed 90% of its content because CSAM investigations were coming out of Parliament in Canada, and they couldn't verify consent or age, and there was a ton of underage content, and that's still being litigated now. But there's public survivors from all over the world about their stuff being shared on companies like Pornhub. And it's a huge issue, one, because it's so easy for people to distribute, to sell, to monetize. It's also a huge issue because the abuse doesn't stop. When I look at it I'm a therapist, so I look at this from a healing perspective. And in a in-person sexual assault where there's no footage, the assault ends in a specific moment, and then after that, you're healing. There is effects from the assault. There's tons. Where we get into kind of this long-term re-traumatization is in a lot of these CSAM cases, their videos and images will be shared indefinitely for the rest of their life. People will reshare them, they'll re-identify it. It gets sent to these people, and people will show it to them and say, hey, this video's of you. That happens to them for years and years and years, and we don't have a way to. And so on a personal level, this happens to survivors all over the world. Our nonprofit, International Protection Alliance, we've served survivors in the US, we've served some in Colombia, and then primarily we focus in Thailand is where we work the most. About 80% of our clients are boys, and all of our clients are minors right now. And they've all been through online sexual exploitation. For most of them, they were abused in person, that abuse was filmed, and then it was sold online. We've also dealt with, this is on another zoom out level, is people traveling for the purpose of abusing kids. We see this a lot globally. We see it a lot coming out of the US. And do it for a lot of reasons, but one of the big ones is if someone sexually abuses their neighbor, they can be the rest of their life. That person knows their family, they, at any point for the rest of their life, they can walk out and report that person. Someone travels to abuse a kid and they leave, they're much less likely to get reported, especially if they abuse kids that lack a lot of resources or more vulnerable, like kids experiencing poverty, homelessness, kids that are living on the street, kids that are just looking for their next meal, right? And someone came over from, let's say, like Switzerland, kid that's living on the street here and then goes back to Switzerland. That kid's probably not, hey, I got to go contact Swiss law enforcement, make a report, build a case. They're, how do I get my next meal? They're still trying to, now I got to go to the doctor because of X, Y, or Z. This happened. We aim to bridge that gap. And we work to help those kids report, help identify people doing this, and pass that information to law enforcement. Those are some of the zoom out issues. It also creates, on the trafficking issue, it creates the ability to monetize rape at a larger level, to a larger market, where people organize visits with these kids online. So when they're traveling to a country or they're going somewhere new or they're doing any of this stuff, they can find kids online. They don't have to leave their hotel. They don't have to get to the country first. They don't have to go somewhere else. The trafficking at its simplest form is where you sell somebody for money. Sex trafficking, you sell sex for money. You look at CSAM cases, when they're selling videos of child exploitation, they're selling rape for money. And these qualify as trafficking cases. And it's a way that trafficking is also adapted to people. One of the things we see a lot is what would be termed pay-per-view sexual abuse, where people pay and then they come in live for a live abuse recording, and they watch. That's what people sell. And these are all happening at a global scale. And it happens in your community, and you can Google it and understand it. The law enforcement unit that usually is investigating it is called an ICAC unit, ICAC, which means Internet Crimes Against Children. And if you look up your local ICAC unit, and they often have social medias, they're on LinkedIn, they share arrests and stories and stories and stories, and those will all be local to you. So if you want to see local ones, that's a great resource to just get a baseline of, this is what's presenting in my county, in my city, in my state, and this is what law enforcement is actively able to identify, the arrests that are happening, the court cases that are happening. And in online cases, it's not a he said, she said, and they can never frame it like that because it's filmed, because they can pull chat logs off your phones and get into these apps and pull this messaging and use it in court. It's not a he said, she said, it's a this happened. And now you've been arrested, and now we're moving forward with a court case. And it's really sad, and it is a growing problem. And there's also a growing number of resources fighting this problem. International Protection Alliance is not the only org that works in the online safety space. We collaborate with other orgs that do. And that's something that I always tell people to look at. I've been talking for a while, so I'll pause for a second.
That's all right. That's quite all right. But it actually leads me into the next question. And I know we had a conversation before we came on here, but and I have a question with regard to the perpetrators as well, but I'll get to that in a moment. But I want to ask, how is IPA, or International Protection Alliance, practically working to identify, prevent, and intervene in cases of online exploitation? I know that you've partnered with your local law enforcement on the local level. The thing that I was thinking about too, when you were sharing about, you can Google and you can look what's going on in your own community. And what came to mind was, if you think you're in a community where that's not happening, think again. That exploitation isn't happening. There are things happening in your community. But I also want to, before we get into all of that, let's share a little bit about how IPA is working to identify, prevent, and intervene.
Yeah. And I'll clarify, we partner with law enforcement in the areas we've worked. We've worked alongside federal units, and then we work with our primary law enforcement contacts currently are in Thailand. And we work with law enforcement primarily there. That's where we started. It's where most of our staff are. And we online safety cases there. We have survivor support stuff we've done in the U.S. domestically. And then we've worked with some survivors and law enforcement units in other countries. But most of what we're doing right now is at the federal level and then internationally.
Wow.
IPA, on the education prevention issue, we do a lot of stuff like this. We come to groups, podcast shows, conferences, schools, and we talk about the issue. We provide education, and we help people understand the scope of the problem, and then what they can actively do to stay safe and how they can influence current things that are happening in, for example, the policy space. On the day-to-day intervention level, we work with law enforcement to identify active predators online. Predators are often active through anonymous accounts, posting images, videos, requests in groups, and we work to identify those people and then provide reports to law enforcement. We also identify kids that are being victimized. And that's where we are able to currently, we have helped with multiple arrests in Thailand specifically. We're a nonprofit. We've never arrested, rescued, any of those kind of things. Law enforcement does that. We can't run into somebody's home and say, hey, you have CSAM, I'm going to arrest you. Like, we're a nonprofit, like not in the scope of what we're allowed to do. We can, with trusted law enforcement, say, hey, we've found this information at their request that they've asked us to do this. And we go, okay, we found this, we verified it. It's essentially viewed as a well-informed tip that they then re-verify, and then they can action, or they can arrest. And then we go with them. We provide on-site support to the survivors that are there. They're taken care of, get medical care, get advocacy throughout the process, explain what's going on, all of this kind of stuff. Like they're often related to who's doing this to them. And so like for one boy, it was his dad, and his dad was raising him by himself. And so when his dad got arrested, it was like our staff and law enforcement and government social workers that were there. It's not like there wasn't somebody else there to explain this. And so we do that. And then we also do what's called digital forensics, which is a fancy term for pulling evidence off of technology. And so we go with law enforcement and we help, once these guys are arrested and they have their phones, we help pull chat logs, photos, social media accounts, other stuff like that, and pull it in a way that it can be understood and used in court so that law enforcement can use it. And then we also, with law enforcement agencies, are usually able to identify more predators and more kids who are being abused from those phones.
Wow.
Like when that first arrest happens, that instigates other investigations. That's not like the finish line. That's where, okay, now we have the devices. We can see the other people he was chatting with, what they're chatting about, what they were trying to do. Maybe they were abusing kids together or providing abuse videos to each other. We can then help law enforcement identify. And then my role at IPA, in addition to education and initiatives like that, I help I coordinate our survivor care initiatives. We help support survivors throughout the justice, the healing process. And we do that through things like therapy, helping with medical costs, clothing, schooling, education, all of those kind of things. We flew up 2 survivors from Colombia to the US to testify or to give statements in a court case against an American who was convicted of, he had traveled from Florida to Colombia over 40 times in just under 2 years, and he'd abused kids. He was accused of abusing kids as young as 9. And he was a pharmacist, had a good job, and he would go down there and abuse kids, and he would find those kids online and he would film it. And and he got life. We flew up these 2 girls and they rocked it. They were incredible. And then we showed him around Florida, provided crisis counseling for stuff that was coming up. And then at home, they just spoke at the UN in, I believe it was in Austria a few months ago. She's incredible.
Oh, wow.
And I have the privilege of working with people coming from these situations and helping them as they heal and thrive after the fact. Because there is so much life and good and things that people still experience, even if they've been through something like this. This doesn't need to be the end. It doesn't need to be what makes life sad forever. There's complications and hardships, and there are bad outcomes, but there's also phenomenal
Yeah.
ones. But that's the spaces IPA.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And it's just a reminder that your organization is a nonprofit. And in order for all of you to do the great work that you're doing, donations
Yeah,
to support the work that all of you are doing. We're just hearing a little bit about some of the girls or some of the young women that have survived this, and now they're going on to do some really good things, which actually you kind of got into the next question that I had, and that is, are there other encouraging stories or victories that
yeah,
remind you the fight is making a real difference? I mean, obviously we just heard of one. Are
yeah.
there any others that you'd like to share with us?
There's so many. For the job that I do, the lows are really, really low, but the highs are incredible. I just actually got back from Thailand. I got back yesterday, and I was
Okay.
onboarding a social worker who just joined our staff, and we went and did some home visits with some clients that we've started working with, and they're doing incredible. They're back. These two boys were back with family. They're catching up in school, and they're getting back as much to normal life as they can. And honestly, they both had incredibly supporting parents, and
Oh, wow.
that was a game changer. And it's
Yeah.
such a big deal when there's that support structure there, and not everyone is that fortunate or that lucky. For these two, it was awesome to be sitting with them and just see how much their parents cared while they were there was incredible. And these kids they're going back to school. They got the medical care that they needed. We always do things. We help them with checkups for STIs, physical abuse, untreated injuries, things like that. We look at things like education. Do they need to catch up in school? Do they need help? Do they need tutors? Do they need school fees? And that's something that we always have. And if you guys ever want to help support a survivor family directly and you want to know exactly where the money is going, the email is I want to help at protectall.org. And I'm happy to let you know, hey, these are some of the things that we currently have needs for if you'd like to donate specifically for those, whether it's on the intervention law enforcement side, specific survivor needs we have. All of our survivor identities are confidential, they're private.
Right.
We don't share those, but I'm happy to share things like this, things that are going really well, things that we're currently working on, current needs that our families have. And those may feel like small victories in the grand scheme of things, but when you look at where these kids will be in a couple years, and in a large part because of the support they have at home, having parents that believe them, that don't judge them, that help and support them, that want the best for them, is one of the best things that someone can ever have. And so that for us was incredible to see.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's such great work you're doing, seriously. To know that there are people like you and your organization out there really caring for what's happening to kids and providing resources for them as well, so that they can not only heal from what they've experienced, but to continue to have a life that is thriving. My question to you now, I'm going to do a little bit of a pivot here,
Yeah.
so it's a little unexpected, but I wanted to ask you this. I think about, when I think about kids that have been bullied in school, and there's all these resources and help for the kid that's being bullied, I think about, well, okay, what's going on with the kid that's the bully, right? There's something else going on there. Is there help for that kid also? How does that stop? And I think about this as well with regard to these predators, and no one is born this way. So there are things that happen in life, and I'm certainly not excusing the behavior. I just want to make that really, really clear. But are there any organizations or resources for, I'm assuming, primarily males
Mhm.
that are perpetrating these crimes? I imagine some women might be involved as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentages are, but is there any help for the perpetrators at
Yeah.
all?
So I would say on the gender note, the vast majority of buyers are male. And we do see a lot of female sellers where women
Right.
are selling the
Yeah.
video, the images, or access to their kids. We see
Oh,
that.
okay.
But the majority of buyers are male. The majority of people traveling to abuse kids are male. And from a US lens, when people get arrested and they've abused kids, they're often given mandated therapy, interventions, things like that. It's not my expertise in I don't see people that are doing that in my therapy office. And as a practice, I don't have the knowledge on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also need to keep my office a safe place for my clients. And so I can't
Absolutely.
commingle those populations.
Totally understand.
I will say there's a difference for therapeutic intervention for someone who's done this once and they're 19 versus someone who's 40 and has been abusing kids for decades, right? Those are
Right.
different situations. Beyond that, I don't know too much. I know there's orgs that exist. There's therapists that this is the space that they work in as they work with perpetrators of domestic violence, of sexual abuse, of child sexual. That I'm just
Yeah.
not one of them. I
Yeah.
don't know
Okay.
a nonprofit that focuses on that specifically.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean there's not one. It just means I don't know it.
Right. Okay.
I know our biggest focus is removing people who are actively abusing kids, removing their access to those kids is our biggest focus right now.
Right.
That for us, prevention issue because it prevents their future abuse and other kids. Most of our cases, they're doing this in a serial manner. It's not a one-off. We had one guy arrested who had abused over 20 kids in his neighborhood.
Oh, good grief.
And that person would be very different in future risk to kids, in level that they believe what they're doing is okay. All of this stuff would be different for them than it would be like someone who's 18 sexually abused a 16-year-old. Those are different issues. That's where we focus, is on those kind of cases.
All right. It was a question that I had, and so I thought I would ask. I want to get into, again, before we began recording the second part, we were talking about legislation.
Yeah.
So there's legislation around online. So the legislation around online safety is always changing because the technology is always changing as well. What current laws or policy efforts should families, churches, and communities be watching right now?
Okay. The biggest one that I would ever tell anyone to watch is Federal Law Section 230. And that law is written in the late 90s, and it's never really changed. And the internet did not look how it does today back then. But essentially what it does is it removes liability for online companies for things that happen on their platforms. And what I mean by that is if there's a group on Facebook full of people that are talking about abusing kids, meeting up, chatting, sharing content with each other, Facebook is not liable for that because of Section 230. Wow. Section 230 makes it so law enforcement can go after the people doing it on Facebook. But even if Facebook knowingly is profiting from it, they're not required to change anything. They're not held legally responsible, and that needs to change. These big tech companies that absolutely know what's going on, they know what's going on their platform. It's not hard to find, it's not hard to see, and it's monetized. They need to be given a push to change because they're not doing it on their own. They're not protecting kids on their own. You remember how fast everything during COVID was labeled, this could contain information about COVID. That little
the misinformation box that comes up.
Yet child exploitation can flourish on their site. As an example, the tech exists. Section 230 is the biggest thing I would have people focus on. If that law changed, it would change the digital landscape for how much safer kids are almost immediately. It would be incredible. And we're not ignorant. I know sexual abuse has existed as long as we have recorded history, at minimum. And it will exist after I die. Sexual abuse is not going to go away in my lifetime. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to make social media a safer place for kids. That doesn't mean we should allow this stuff to exist on platforms and say, then predators are going to exist anyway. Let's let them play on Facebook. That's not what the reaction should be. I will say other things to look at is there's a lot of places looking at age verification for pornography sites, for downloading apps, for things like that. Be aware of those laws, understand them, advocate for good ones. And another one is just AI regulation. I don't have very much right now. I'll give you an example. There's a teenage girl that is now, this girl did nothing wrong. She didn't send a nude image to anybody. She didn't put herself in a bad situation. Teenage boys at her high school made nude images of her and sent them around the school using AI. There's a program called Nudify that does exactly what it sounds like. You put in a fully clothed image of somebody and it gives you a nude image back. You can give it instructions, you can do all this stuff, and that's all AI. It cannot distinguish between an 18 and a 17 and a 15-year-old.
Oh,
I believe there's good research that AI can tell if you put the minimum age as 25, it can do a good job. But at 18, 17, and 16, it does not. And this girl is a public advocate is because she did nothing. It's not even, hey, I sent a nude and it got leaked. She just was living life doing whatever teenagers do, and someone said, I'm gonna make her naked with this program I found. And
oh
sent
my
it.
gosh. Yeah.
And there are so many cases of that. And AI is
Yeah.
not liable for that. Companies
Wow, unreal. Is this the same gal? Correct me if I'm wrong. Now I'm thinking about what is it the Take It Down Act? Is that
different
what
girl, but
she's
the Take It Down Act is also relevant. And that one just passed. An act did pass. It's not, tech companies aren't required to do it until it's mid next year.
oh,
So a year to put in policies
oh,
and
all
practices
right.
and the tech and all that. And you have to hire a lot of people. But things in the Take It Down Act, for example, are things if my nude image was put on Facebook and I tell Facebook to take it down, they have 3 days to take it down, I believe is the amount of time. Where before
Jeez.
they had no incentive to remove it at all. They could leave it up.
Wow.
And if they did remove it, great. But if not, I had no recourse. And
Wow.
the Take It Down Act gives me recourse. And
Okay.
that's incredible. And that one
Yeah.
that one's
Yeah.
set. That one should go into effect mid next year. And
Okay.
that's an example of great legislation that just passed.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
included AI deepfakes in that
Oh,
one.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
Yeah. There's
it doesn't make using AI to make them illegal for
right.
the AI company. It just means that if it's on social media, it has to come down.
Mm.
But you can't, if your 17-year-old has AI CSAM made of them, I don't believe have any legal recourse directly against the AI company in
Okay.
a precedent law.
Okay.
And those are different issues, but the Take It Down Act does make it so if any content of you gets put online, you can go and make it get brought down. NCMEC is the National Center on Missing and Exploited Children. They have a resource called Take It Down and a cyber tip line where you can go and put in URLs, images, things like that of yourself or your kids or anything like that, and they will work proactively to get that stuff taken offline. So if
Oh, wow.
my teenager's nude was put on Facebook, if you find the links, you can give those to NCMEC and they'll go and chase it down. And they do that
Okay.
for you. Don't have to.
Okay.
I haven't used the resource. I don't have firsthand knowledge with how well it works. I passed it to a lot of parents
Mm-hmm.
that they were going to go use it. I don't have firsthand account knowledge of, hey, it worked great or it didn't work great, but that is a resource that exists right now that you can use.
Okay.
If you Google NCMEC, take it down. It's a very easy fixed question answer, insert the URL, all that kind of stuff. And they do a great
Okay.
job.
That's good to know. It's sad that we have to know about these things. Sad that
It is.
it's sad that social media platforms, the people behind that, are not being held responsible and liable. It makes absolutely zero sense. And you were right during the whole COVID thing, where if you posted something about it, there was this misinformation box that would come up, and he said the technology is there, right? For me too, what I have an issue with regard to the whole age verification thing is, how are they going to prove that the individual that's creating the account is actually the age that they say that they are? I remember many, many years ago when I was on Facebook. I have been on it, I have been off of it, and I'm back on it. Anyway, so when I know that the a minimum age was 13, which I think is really young, and I saw one of our nieces on Facebook saying that she was 13, where I knew full well that she was 9. And I'm going, what are they using to verify people's ages when they create
Yeah.
these accounts? It must not be very robust, because if a 9-year-old can lie about how old she is to get onto Facebook without a problem, that's a problem.
Yeah. And there's people that are brilliant in the tech space that could give you a really good answer for possible avenues for that. That could say, hey, I could design a verification system and it would work.
Yeah.
I'm a therapist. I'm a social
Yeah.
worker. I'm not one of them.
Right.
But I know them and they're great and they absolutely could. It's not, this is not an undoable. Facebook, Twitter, all these places will say, hey, that's unrealistic. We could never do that. We couldn't figure it out. They could.
No. Yeah.
With the money they have and the tech they have and the people working for them, they could.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
It's
yeah,
not about we can't do it. It really is a matter of they don't want to do
yeah.
it.
And even on the pornography note, all these porn companies, a ton of them, you don't
Yeah.
have to verify who you are to upload. You don't have to verify that you were in the video. So I have clients they were having a consensual sexual encounter. There was a hidden camera and the person uploads the video to porn companies.
Jeez.
And they find out because someone shows them the video. They don't find
Yeah.
out because you just know. I know that you don't have a premonition where you're just like,
Right.
my video's on this porn company. Someone showed them. And that's how they found out that their video was on. They said, oh, here, this is you, isn't it? And they were excited about it. And
Wow.
imagine how traumatizing that is for somebody. There's no, I have to upload an ID and everyone in the video has to, and we all have to say it's consensual. There's 4 people in the video. We have to upload all 4 of us giving signed statements. There's no verification system like that. Someone can upload a video of somebody to a porn website and it'll just stay there and people can download it and watch it. And if it gets taken down, re-upload it. That is an
Wow.
active problem. And these companies, they're not even trying. And
Yeah.
the companies that are saying, hey, we actually are just a porn site, they're not trying
No.
to say,
No.
hey, if you want to upload to this website, Pornhub, you don't have to, hey, I'm in the video. This is my ID. This is my face match with the video. There's nothing like that. And it's wild.
It's just so sad. It just tells me what they really do care about is money.
Yeah.
And because if they really cared about human beings, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Or we really need to exist if people are going out of their way to figure this out.
As we start wrapping up here, I wanted to ask you this. How can people of faith, whether they're parents, leaders, or young adults, join with your organization in prayer, awareness, or action to help protect the vulnerable and bring light into dark spaces online?
Prayer, people can pray anywhere they want. Like, that is the easiest thing to do, is to go and include in your prayers, to meditate on it, think on it, all of those things. But have these conversations in your churches, in your ministries, in your youth groups. These should be conversations you're having when you're talking about the challenges of growing up today, when you're talking to parents about raising kids, when you're helping with this kind of stuff. Have these conversations. If you want me to consult on that, email me. I'm happy to. Those are things I'm really happy to do. Honestly, getting into churches is a lot less complicated than getting into schools. Schools are very different state to state. They have a lot more overhead. They have a lot more complex systems. Churches, if a group of people want you there, you're there. It's a lot less complicated. And if you want someone to come and talk to parents or Zoom in and talk to parents or talk to your ministry or anything like that, always happy to. You just let me know. We've had churches do donation drives if they're where we have clients. We've had where they've collected gift cards or clothing or things like that. We've had churches do donations where their congregation has decided, hey, we want to do something, and we'll meet and we'll run them through some needs, and they'll say, we want to do this for these 3 families or do this for this upcoming need, anything like that. We've had churches, one way churches can help is organizing policy letters, endorsing things like, hey, we need to change section 230 around their congregation, and sending that to their local senator and their government office, saying, hey, this is us. It's our right as parents to protect our kids online. And this is not a free speech issue. This is a safety issue. This is not, hey, you can't have a bad opinion online. This is, tech companies are allowing exploitation to take place on their sites and they're not doing anything about it. These are all ways churches and ministries have gotten involved, can get involved. We had one church donate to fund multiple of our survivors' needs over in Thailand earlier this year. It was great. Out of Houston. They're phenomenal. And these are all things. So that free stuff people can do is just follow our socials, sign up for our newsletter, follow us, share what we do. If there's someone you think would be interested in this, send them my email, send them the podcast, send them some information and connect us. If you're like, hey, I think you're listening to this right now and I know this person or this company or this thing would be interested in what you're talking about, connect
Yeah.
us. We would love the connection.
I love that. There's so many different ways to get involved to whatever extent the individual wants to get involved. And what I'm going to say is get involved. However, the Lord is leading you to do it, take that step, because Jacob and his organization are one of many doing this work. So, another really great way, too, what Jacob and IPA is doing is to donate. They need funds. They're a nonprofit organization. So go to the website at protectall.org. And as you said in part one, which I will share the link to part one if you've missed part one, there's a donate button on the website. So are people able to, if they wanted to, there's a one-time donation. Can they also do a recurring monthly donation
Yes.
as well?
Yes, and monthly donors are some of the most helpful things you can have as a nonprofit. It allows us to forecast impact, to project, to know what we can promise, what we can do the next month. It allows us to see this kind of stuff, as opposed to one-off donations are amazing. They're just they're hard to project because they're once, and we don't get a thing that's, hey, we're also doing this again in 4 months. We just don't. But people donate right now. Our smallest monthly donors are $2 a month, and our largest are over 1,000. And there's not a place that's too small. Whatever makes sense to you, we'll use to help clients that need the support.
I love that. When we sow that seed, God will multiply it at $2 a month. If that's where you can start there and see how God will multiply that. Jacob, it was so wonderful having you on the show. I know that this is a really hard topic to talk about, but it's one that's so needed. I'm really grateful that you were willing to come on and have this conversation and help parents and families and our communities be really more aware of what is going on, and then figure out what steps do they want to take in being able to protect children in their communities, in their families, and even around the world by donating to your organization as well. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you so much. And for everyone that listened, thank you. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being willing to sit in the discomfort of this conversation, because it matters. So thank you for doing it.
It really does matter. And thank you to everyone that's been watching and listening. Remember to like, follow, and share and subscribe as well. And if you have missed part one, I will share the show link in the notes so that you can catch up and listen to the first part of our conversation. And to everyone also that have been watching and listening, thank you so much for being here again. And may the Lord bless you today. Thank you so much.